Hey gang, today we're going to dive into an evaluation of the last 3 days of a cycle of CrossFit.com programming. Now, .com has had a handful of guest programmers over the past couple months. We're moving into a section about 2 weeks where we'll have Ben Smith writing the programming for CrossFit.com. Now, we're going to have a look at the past 3 days of workouts that Ben has programmed, and we're going to be looking at efficacy, how well it sticks to the methodology, modalities, where we've been, and start to think about where we might go next. Now, I want to throw out the caveat that we're just looking kind of objectively at these workouts. Any statements in here, I think Ben is a phenomenal programmer. He's one of the best athletes in the space, one of the best coaches in the space, and I don't think anyone can really make an argument that Ben is quote unquote bad at programming. However, there's some things we're going to dig into here that might not line up exactly with traditional CrossFit methodology. So, with that said, let's dive on in. Day one on Monday was a 2-part workout. We had a strength component, which was 5 sets of 3 on a strict press, building up towards a heavy 3, so ascending in load. We then had a workout that was 4 rounds, 4 time, 500-meter row, 50 double unders, and then 5 sets of 1 wall walk and 1 strict wall-facing handstand push-up. So you'd wall walk up, strict wall-facing handstand push-up, wall walk back down. That would be 1. You would do 5 reps of that. Once completing your 4 rounds, you would then cash out with a 200-foot overhead walking lunge with a 45-pound plate. One heck of a workout there. Shifting into day 2. Another 2-part day. We had some heavy back squats, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, also ascending in load. We then had a partner workout, 10 rounds each, alternating full rounds with a homie, of 10 burpees to a 3-inch target, and 1 legless rope climb from seated. You'd go back and forth, buddy, till you each did 10 rounds. Then we have our last day of this 3-day cycle is a kind of little climbing ladder of power cleans, 5, 10, and then 15 reps of power clean at 185 for the gentlemen, 125 for ladies, 20 dumbbell bench press at 70 pounds for the gents, 50 for the ladies, and then 100 double unders. So it's essentially 3 rounds, but the power clean reps just go up by 5 each time. And then the second part for today, a little accessory, was once you had finished this, was to rest as needed and then accumulate 2 minutes in an L-sit. Now, things to think about as we're going through. First thing that jumps out at me that is in stark contrast with traditional CrossFit methodology is that each of these days is technically a 2-part day. The L-sit as some accessory after the workout here, some back squats and strict press prior to a conditioning workout. On none of these days do we have your traditional just 1-piece Metcon or a traditional heavy day. It's kind of combining both. Now, every once in a while, that's not the worst thing in the world. If you have a short workout like Diane and you want to do kind of a 5x3 heavy deadlift beforehand, building up towards a heavy triple, and then do your 21-15-9 of deadlifts and handstand push-ups, I think there's a time and a place for that. However, when looking at the structure of this, where each day is a 2-part, essentially a strength and Metcon day on each one, I think that start to deviate away from traditional CrossFit methodology that we learned in level 1 and is shared with on CrossFit.com. Now, again, taking nothing away from Ben. He's a phenomenal programmer. Having done all of these workouts, they were all fantastic workouts within their own right. As we start to look at movements, modalities, time domains, all that fun stuff, we see a slight imbalance or a bias towards weightlifting movements. If we start to look at these things here, obviously our strict press and back squat are weightlifting. As we kind of cruise down here, that overhead walking lunge might not be super heavy, but we're moving an externally loaded object, so this also gets chucked in the weightlifting bin. Over here on the 3rd day, weightlifting palooza. We've got power cleans and dumbbell bench press as weightlifting movements. So all in all, 5 weightlifting modality movements over the course of our 3 days. If we look at gymnastics, moving forward, We're gonna count this complex as kind of one gymnastics movement because it's linked together as a complex. So this would be gymnastics, burpees, seated legless, gymnastics for days. Boom, just there. And then our L-sit, sorry, lost it at the bottom. Our L-sit counts as gymnastics as well. Finally, finishing out with monostructural, we've got our row is monostructural, double unders, monostructural, and then double unders, monostructural. So, looking at our modalities, we have 5 weightlifting movements, 4 gymnastics movements, and then 3 monostructural movements. One kind of gripe I have with this is that 2 of our 3 monostructural movements are double unders. So we see that movement twice in a 3-day span, which isn't the best variance. However, if you're gonna overdo a movement pattern, double unders or something monostructural is probably gonna be the least destructive to any of your athletes. We wouldn't wanna overdo something in the weightlifting thing where we're overdoing loading or movement patterns there. So that's my kind of small gripe with that. Overall, when we look at modalities, it's just a slight bias towards weightlifting. So what that can tell us as we look towards Friday, Saturday, the next 2 days of Ben's programming, what we're gonna see in theory, if all things balance out and we have proper variance and things like that, is we should see a little bit more of a shift towards monostructural and gymnastics. Also, something to think about. We've got 3 kind of strength components. I personally would love to see Ben kind of vary that up a little bit and get away from the 2-part day where weightlifting and conditioning are happening on the same day. Just allows you to focus more on one thing. The next thing to think about is time domains. We've gone over movement modalities. For time domains, each of these conditioning workouts were roughly in the same domain. Each of them were averaging about 15 to 20 minutes on that workout. Not only for myself, but for also anybody else logging workouts on Beyond the Whiteboard or Sugar Watt. I kind of pulled some scores from there. Averages were in between this time frame. Now, if you're Ben or someone who's a games athlete, likes training Laura Horvath, all those guys over there, they can probably smash these workouts a fair bit faster than you and me. However, on average, people following.com, we're all kind of landing in that 15 to 20 minute range for all 3 workouts, which again, not the worst thing in the world. It's definitely not gonna make you less fit to go hard for 15 to 20 minutes. However, from a variance standpoint, I think we should start to see for the next 2 days of Ben's programming, and then especially rolling into the following week, we're hopefully gonna see some more sprint style workouts, maybe something that's more interval style so we can work a little bit more on speed, and then maybe just a longer kind of 20+ minute monostructural type workout would fit really well with where this has been. Overall, this was a really fun 3-day cycle of programming. Each person at programs.com has brought some different and unique movements or challenges into it. Going for the wall walk and strict wall facing handstand push-up combo, that was gnarly on the shoulders. And then the seated legless rope climb, again, an nice little gymnastics challenge. So I think it was awesome that Ben threw those movements in there that don't typically get seen in your normal kind of day-to-day CrossFit. Because I think it's valuable to try and push those boundaries a little bit. And again, we can always scale appropriately. Instead of a seated legless, this could be a normal legless rope climb. It could be a regular rope climb or something like a pull to stand. For the wall walk and strict wall facing handstand push-up, that could turn into maybe you just do 5 wall walks and then 5 normal strict handstand push-ups. It's kind of like a 5 and 5 type deal. Maybe you just go 5 wall walk if the strict handstand push-up isn't happening for you. All good to go there. But I think throwing in some interesting movements just spices things up a little bit. So overall, relatively balanced, slight bias towards weightlifting, and definitely a bias towards that 15 to 20 minute time range. And my gripes with it are we had double unders 2 out of the 3 days of this cycle, and then each day was a 2-part day, which typically, again, for CrossFit methodology, isn't something we would normally go to. Not a horrible thing once in a while. However, the fact that it's happened consistently over 3 days is something that I think, in a perfect world, Ben would shift away from. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else Ben has in store for peoplefollowing.com. And if you enjoyed this little breakdown and basically looking at programming, let me know. I'm a nerd. I like to chat about it. So we'll catch you guys on the next video. We'll have a look at some CrossFit.com programming as we go down the line. Catch you next time.